Are you afraid of clowns? If you are chorophobic. Interestingly, this phobia seems to be neither well understood nor researched, but there have been attempts at trying to understand what is at the heart of the fear of clowns. According to a Scientific American study, there are two big contributing factors. First, the negative portrayals of clowns in media doesn't help anything or anybody. And second, not being able to read the facial expression or gauge the emotional intent of a clown because of the makeup. But that leaves the question, where and when did clowns go from a fun-loving entertainment to a sinister persona? Welcome to Curious People Wanted. I'm Dr. Daryn Reyman-Lock, curator of the Barnum Museum. And today, I am going to explore where the idea of a sinister clown originated. If you stay with me until the end, I will tell you a story about a clown who saved people from a huge fire that killed over 170 people and injured 700 others. So clowns aren't a new invention. Pranksters, jesters, jokers, tricksters, all have been part of various cultures for thousands of years. Egyptian pharaohs were entertained by dangas who wore leopard skins and portrayed the gods through dance as early as 5000 BC. Ancient imperial China has Yu Zi, who teased the emperor for wanting to paint the Great Wall. And in Rome, did you think we would get through one of these without me mentioning Rome? There was Stupidus, who wore a pointed hat and colorful outfit. Stupidus is Latin for mimic fool, and also where we get the word stupid. Throughout the Middle Ages, court jesters poked fun at political and ruling figures, and by 1500, Punch and Judy took Britain by storm. Punch in himself is horribly problematic because he's a mass murdering, child killing clown. In all of these scenarios, these clowns, for lack of a better word, were ambiguous characters with maybe the exception of Punch. For the others, though, they'd make you laugh as soon as laugh at you. They'd show society through a comedic, satiric lens, and their behavior was often seen as manic. But these are hardly what people today would think of as clowns. The ancestor of what we think of as clowns really started in 18th and 19th century Europe, where theatrical events called pantomimes began. The ancestor of the modern clown was a man named Joseph Grimaldi, who was the first to really adapt the colorful costumes, the white face paint with the red cheeks, and a fun hairstyle. He wore a blue mohawk. Grimaldi was renowned in pantomime for his physical hijinks, but behind the outgoing and funny exterior, Grimaldi himself was sort of a tragic person. He was born in London in 1778 and had a tyrant stage father. He was prone to depression. His first wife died in childbirth, and his son was an alcoholic who died at the age of 31. To add to this, the physical comedy for which he was known left him in constant pain, so much so he became physically disabled. He died in 1837, a depressed and penniless alcoholic. But here's the twist. After his death, Charles Dickens, yes, that guy who wrote A Tale of Two Cities and A Christmas Story, edited Grimaldi's memoirs, which had been poorly written from Grimaldi's own notes by Thomas Egerton Wilkes. Dickens' version sold well, but he certainly portrayed Grimaldi as being in commensurate pain for every laugh he generated. And in doing so, some scholars believe that Dickens sort of invented this idea of a scary clown, someone who would physically destroy themselves for others' entertainment, making you sort of wonder, what is actually going on underneath all the makeup? Now, at roughly the same time as Grimaldi, there was another guy named Jean-Gaspard Dubrow, whose alter ego, Pierrot, was a white-faced, red-lipped, bohemian French mime with black eyebrows. And where Grimaldi's character was tragic, Dubrow's was downright sinister. On stage, Dubrow was loved by many, praised by Baudelaire and Gautier, but in 1836, he beat a boy to death with a walking stick. He was later acquitted of that murder, but this enhanced the idea that the two most famous clowns of the time were troubled people beneath the face paint. After this, theater changed. Clowns became a performance one would normally see in other arenas, particularly the circus, where they became the comic relief between thrilling acrobatics and stunt acts. They were there to really amuse adults. Exported from Britain to America in the mid-19th century, the arenas grew. The one-ring circus turned to 3 under Barnum, and the clown, which had once been able to speak to the audience, lost the ability to do so in such a big venue. Their outward appearance became one of the principal ways to communicate. During the early 20th century, and certainly during the Depression, the idea of hobo clowns became prominent. These clowns were usually sad, smiled very little, were unshaven, and had tattered clothes, but they made you laugh. The most famous of these clowns was Weary Willie, who was a character made by a man named Emmett Kelly. We will come back to him, so remember that name. By the mid-20th century, American culture was overrun with happy clowns like Bozo, Ronald McDonald, and Clarabelle on the Howdy Doody Show. Clowns had transitioned from a form of adult entertainment to something that really catered to children and played to their innocence. But some psychologists say that this enhanced the idea of evil clowns and made what could be concealed underneath the face paint even more sinister. Movies like Cecil B. DeMille's Oscar-winning Greatest Show on Earth portrayed morally ambiguous clowns. Jimmy Stewart's character, Button's a clown, never removes his makeup because, spoiler alert, he was a doctor who mercy killed his wife but ends up saving several people by the end. By the 1970s and certainly into the 80s, clowns became an increasingly frightening prospect with serial killer John Wayne Gacy and movies like Poltergeist and Stephen King's It. Even today, the horror series Saw and It remakes continue to display the sinister aspects of clowns. So that leaves the question, is the idea of the sinister clown a new one or just more overtly idealized in popular culture? Interestingly, the Scientific American study stated that more women than men are afraid of clowns, that fear of clowns decreases with age, and that most of the issue surrounding clowns is the inability to adequately gauge emotional intent because of their makeup. So back to Emmett Kelly. Emmett Kelly was the progenitor of Weary Willie, a form of clown called a hobo. Kelly was widely recognized for his character and even saved a bunch of people from a huge circus fire in 1944. But to hear that story, you'll have to tune in to part 2 of Clowns next week. I'll tell you the whole story and show you some artifacts from that circus fire. In the meantime, please like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and feel free to ask any questions or give me any ideas for topics below. But above all, remember to stay curious.